Yeah. So we'll see. There's something going on there. I'm not sure what it is, but it's okay.
Welcome into first game of the day here from Fort Bluff Camp as we get the early bracket underway. 9:30 start here this morning between Covenant and Knoxville Christian. And boy, is this going to be confusing. Both of these teams wearing essentially royal blue as this goes under the net. We're tied up at 2, and by the way, we do have Covenant's roster this morning. Yesterday we had to do the first game without that because we were in the middle of doing a bunch of stuff trying to get the audio fixed here, and their roster wasn't in the book. But this morning they did bring one up to us, so we appreciate that. And a kill up front by Michaela Mkhitaryan.
So, yes, we are back. Thank you for a little bit of grace and forgiving us for a little unsettledness this morning, but we're getting up and running. Glad to have you with us.
I'll tell you what, man, I need like a electric blanket or something up here.
Yes,
my hands are like ice. And you're right, it'll eventually warm up in here, but right now it's pretty chilly. 4-2 the lead for Covenant as Knoxville plays it to the far side now. And let's see what Knoxville Christian can do here. Again, it's going to take me a little bit to get used to this because both teams wearing very similar jerseys here this morning. And there's a nice little tap across by Sila Gatti. And a 5-2 lead for Covenant. Is back to serve is Jessica Gatti from the near side as the Knights will play it across, and that will eventually fall in off a good hit from Natalie Wilson, and a 5-3 lead for Covenant.
And thankfully, our digital scoreboard operator has finally woken up this morning.
So we were talking about, I had to give you a ride down the mountain yesterday because your car had stuff going on, and at least you made it back up here. That's a good thing.
Glad to be here. Thankful for the ride down the mountain. We normally like to show Southern hospitality down here, but you came and showed some good hospitality of your own. It's much appreciated.
So that put down, that's a nice little soft touch there from Mkhitaryan, and it'll make it a 6-4 lead for Covenant as back in comes Savannah Price. And now Michaela to serve, and that is an ace. Make it 7-4. I mean, truth be told, I did need to go down the mountain to get dinner anyway, so I was kind of headed that general direction, but not that I wouldn't have given you a ride anyway. But
yeah, I appreciated it just the same, I promise you.
There's a nice hit on the near side. That ends up falling inside that Covenant block up front, and it's 7-5. And the Knights will get set to serve here as Natalie Wilson will serve it up for Knoxville.
Oh, certainly.
I'm sure I'm saying that the northerner way, Knoxville. I'm sure there's probably
that's pretty good. Yeah, Knoxville.
Knoxville, yeah, okay. And that tap back down, and now an 8-5 lead for Covenant. I always get in trouble for the way I say Louisville, too. Because that's people in Kentucky don't particularly like that too much. Outside, that's blocked out of bounds, though. Pretty good effort up front for Covenant.
Yeah, strong statement with that block, even though it went out of bounds.
Well, this ricochets off back to the near side and put across there by Jones. Now back the other way, and Covenant will try to reset here. As the Knights will Set it to the outside. Carson Brock hits that out of bounds. And the nice little start for Covenant continues here.
There's really nothing in all of sports. There's nothing like a strong block in volleyball. It just...
I agree with you. It's just as nice as getting a good hit in.
It is.
And there's something that feels good about doing that, too.
Yeah.
This ricochets off the near side and ends up falling in on the Covenant side of the net. So they lead at 9-7. Back to serve for Knoxville is Anna Komastek. Anna's serve now played up front, set by Gaddy to the far side. Boy, that's a nice dig on that back line by Jolie Gask. Right near side, that's set a little bit too close to the net. It was ricocheted back across, but a nice play by Covenant to kind of recover and make sure it goes over anyway. And now a 10-7 lead.
Starting to feel a lot of different energy today with these teams.
Well, and we should see, we'll explain this in a moment, how we got where we're at. Is this deflected over, and I think they're going to call someone in the net for the Knights. It's Carson Brock.
So let me try to set the table for your explanation. So yesterday and today, wins and losses do not affect the bracket.
Correct.
But they ultimately decide what bracket in classification, what division these teams will ultimately fall in, which is a major component of bracket play tomorrow. And I'll let you kind of delve more into that.
Yeah, it's the real. So this thing is, and there's another ace. That'll make it 13-7 as Rachel Early continues to serve here for Covenant. The thing is, the first day, there's groups of 4, and everyone's just kind of thrown in there, all different divisions, everybody, to try to figure out where they're going to send people. But the thing is, there's a good kill by Carson Brock for the Knights, making it 13-8. The thing is that the first day, what they do is they then divide it into 2 groups, Divisions 1 and 2 and Divisions 3 and 4. The second day, you're in another group of 4, but with teams that are paired down. So you're either going to be in Division 1 or 2 or Division 3 or 4. Then at the end of the second day of pool play, it gets pared down to Division 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the reason they do that is so they know after 2 days, almost 100% certainty, who should be where. It's not a guessing game at that point. And I kind of like that because it gives you a good opportunity to see a lot of different people and realize kind of where you fit. So that's in along the back line. That'll make it a 13-10 lead for Covenant. So that's the reason, too, why today the 2 game sets that you see are going to be a lot closer.
They're going to be, yes, absolutely.
Because you're more even.
We saw as many or more that we didn't that were grossly unmatched opponents yesterday.
And you get that a lot what they want. But today should be a lot. No, you'll still get some that are blowouts, but for the most part, today should be pretty close. 13-11 the lead for Covenant here. It's sent to the outside, put across by Wilson. Now in the middle. Oh, another nice dig in the back, but then blocked up front by Michaela Mkhitaryan. That was a very nice play again in the back row by the libero, Jolie Gask.
So you may ask yourself, on day 1 and day 2, why don't these teams just pump the brakes, essentially sandbag, and fall into a good, an easier bracket? I would submit 2 reasons, as we have a timeout on the court. I would submit 2 reasons, actually 3, of course, one being the obvious. These girls are here to play. They're here to compete. They're here to get better. The number 2 reason is to be able to make it to a Division I. If you're a smaller school, and just to be able to get inside of that division and qualify to compete at that level, that's going to speak volumes right there.
Well, and you can only. This is a little bit different from basketball. in the sense that basketball you can sandbag a little bit easier because you might only have 1 or 2 games or something. If you have this kind of a format, you might only get 1 or 2 games day one, but you're not. Volleyball's different because you could play 3 yesterday, 3 today. It's really difficult to tank
yeah
5 or 6 games as it is to do 1. And really, it's not beneficial. It's not beneficial to you or the other teams because the whole point to doing that is so you do get in a competitive bracket that you want to win. But, yeah, I mean, we've seen it in the past. Some teams have kind of pumped the brakes a little bit in basketball to drop to, Division II or Division III. For basketball, you don't get as much pool play usually. Usually teams just show up here and they're put in a bracket. But I have seen this format in week-long tournaments and stuff for basketball, and you're right, there's some times where that happens, but this tournament, it's hard to do that by virtue of you're playing so many games, and for the most part, you're going to end up where you're supposed to be anyway. I mean, you're going to be in a competitive bracket. So this is in on the near side, and that will make it now a 16-12 lead for Covenant. As in for Knoxville comes Brittany Mason, and also in is Lauren Stafford. And you're right, too. The other thing that gets lost in that is even if you go to Division I, you come in 5th or 6th or 7th place, qualifying for Division I is, a great accomplishment.
Yeah, it says a lot about your program for sure. There's no doubt.
So there's an ace. That'll make it 16-13. And here, man, some of those Division I teams, good grief. Has a set near side. Net put across. Good little touch play there by Sela Gotti as she just kind of tipped it across. So Gotti with the point. And back to serve is Jessica Gotti.
When you mentioned, made the comment about those Division I teams, I'd automatically think of just the power that ball is coming, and then I think about how fortunate we've been. As close as we are to the action, we have an awesome birdside view of the action, and I hope I haven't jinxed us, but we've been fortunate.
We have. It's been, and we're going to see a lot of those Division I teams later in case you want to come back and get an idea of that. This hit into the net by Mkhitaryan. In case you want to get an idea of what that is, come back in about 2 or 3 hours, and there'll be a slew of Division I and II teams, starting with the Rock, and that's a pretty good place to start. Set to the outside. This tipped across, now played by the Knights. Sent over by Wilson. And that hit into the net by Lulu Raines. By the way, the Rock won it last year in Division I believe. And I would say that's the team to beat this year as well. We haven't seen everybody in Division I for sure, but just by virtue of what we saw yesterday, I would be hard-pressed to find a lot better teams than that. As that put in, it'll make it 18-16. Back in for Covenant comes Savannah Price. And now, Michaela Mkhitaryan with the serve. At near side. Covenant to play it. And again, another little touch play on the far side by Gotti. And that falls in. Well, this is a good set one today. 18-17, the lead for Covenant. In the middle, that's blocked up front. Good play by Brittany Mason. We're tied at 18. That back near side, that is hit in along that back line.
It was close. That was a close call.
I think it was right on that line, which of course counts, and the hit by Lulu Raines. Now Haley Jones into the lineup for the Falcons. Played down to the outside. And that hit kind of ricochets after Carson Brock puts it across and eventually falls in. And now we're tied at 19. By the way, you want an interesting little fact here. Carson Brock is doing a lot of the hitting for Knoxville Christian. She's an 8th grader.
Wow.
I'm talking about teams that have some growth potential. That's blocked up front. Good play there by Anna Komistek. Guess what? She's also an 8th grader. That's pretty impressive. Serve here. Played now back in the middle. He just tipped across and down by Selah Gotti. Now we're tied at 20.
We saw a lot of those kind of unsuccessful finesse placements yesterday. Teams were able to react, but boy, she really put the right touch and in the right spot.
Kill on the near side by Jessica Gotti makes it 21-20. And again, Lulu Raines the serve.
Nice jump serve.
Cross by Brock. Carson up again. That was deflected. Now sent back on the near side. A good placement. Just a nice play there by Jessica Gotti. Saw an open spot in the floor and put it there. 22-20.
I believe I found the culprit of the cold draft that you're feeling. You can see the gym door open on the east side.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. 22-21, the lead now for Covenant. As Anna Komistek to serve. And that hit to the net on the far side by Haley Jones. We're tied at 22.
What about this young lady serving the ball?
Yeah, Anna Komistek, who's an 8th grader, serves it up, now played on the near side. Anna will play it there. Now set to the outside, and the kill for Carson Brock makes it 23-22, and a timeout.
What can you say about these 8th graders? I mean, really?
That's pretty impressive, I'll tell you that.
I mean, a lot of times we've seen some, it's not unusual to see some middle school players out here, but they're holding their own, and then some.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're Knoxville Christian, that's for sure. They've got, of the girls that are here today, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 seniors, 2 8th graders, and a junior and a freshman. And there's a handful of girls, 5 or 6 or so, that aren't here today. But there is for sure some stuff to look forward to if you're from Knoxville Christian. Speaking of which, the Knoxville Christian Lady Knights are 24-8 this year. Played to the outside. This tipped across. Now Covenant to play it again. Set to the outside. And that blocked up front. Still alive, though, and eventually falls in.
She almost dug it out.
Savannah Price with a nice block. Makes it 23-23. Now the libero, Rachel Early to serve. Outside, Carson will just tip it over there. And that is out of bounds on that back line. So 24-23. And set point here for Knoxville as Carson Brock will serve. And that goes into the net. So we're tied at 24, and remember, this is a capped game at 25. So this point right here will be it, no matter what. It's not win by 2. So
yeah, we're still in group play. This is not. This is just to get a good reference of how the teams play.
Well, Lexi Connolly to serve what is going to be set point one way or the other. Back to Brock. That was deflected up front. Now sent over. That ricochets around and put over. Connolly sets in the middle, and wow, what a dig in that back line, but it's returned into the net. And that'll do it off the kill from Mkhitaryan. And 25-24, Covenant takes set number 1. So 25-24, Covenant takes that. We'll take a break, come back with set 2. This could be interesting, man. This is a really good matchup on day 1.
This is
or day 2.
I think you're definitely looking at 2 Division II teams. If not, we could see these 2 teams in the finals for Division III. It's just
some good volleyball, that's for sure. So 25-24 the win for Covenant. We'll take a break, come back with set number 2 in a moment. You're watching the NACA. Back as we start set number 2 after a 25-24 win for Covenant in set 1. And a nice play across by Sela Gotti to make it a 1-0 lead for the Falcons. Again, this is not a best-of-3 match. That's not what we're doing today. It is pool play, so 2 individual sets to 25. And there's a double hit on the near side on Zephany Snyder. Speaking of which, Zephany is only a 9th grader. And that is in along that back line. And for a second, it looked like Anna Kamastak was going to go for it and then let it go, thinking probably that was headed out of bounds. Even if she tried to go for that, it was put in such a nice spot. That was going to be a tough return regardless. Serve here by Lexi Connolly, who has served the last couple of points. And that's blocked up front. That's kind of what happens when the set is so far back. And you see Carson hit it, but it just makes it easier for those girls up front to block it. Now a 4-0 lead. That set is better on the near side, and that ricochets off of Michaela Mkhitaryan. And the kill for Carson Brock makes it a 4-1 lead for Covenant. Now Carson to serve. Is tracked down and now bumped across. Near side, that's blocked up front. Sela Gotti, who ended up stopping that, as looked like Natalie Wilson was trying to tip it over and just didn't get quite enough on it. So a 5-1 lead for Covenant as Jessica Gotti to serve. That return right back to the net. And there to hammer it down is Sela Gotti, and it's a now 6-1 lead and a timeout to Knoxville Christian. 6-1 Covenant here in set 2. We'll take a break, come back with more. You're watching the NACA. Six-1 is the lead for Covenant here in set 2. Covenant won set 1, 25-24. Outside it goes, and another kill, this time for Lulu Rains, and a 7-1 lead. Sent into the back row. This to the outside. That hit out of bounds, and they're going to say that it was tipped up front. Now an 8-1 lead.
You heard the Covenant coach. You heard the Covenant coach saying, "That's what I'm looking for. That kind of ferocity on the hits."
Yeah, I mean they have the size advantage up front for sure, both blocking and hitting wise. I mean there's some hitting power on the Knights, but not the same size, physical size that Covenant has. Well, there's a nice dig again on that back line by Jolie Gask. Set in the middle, Mkhitaryan Nice track down and bumped across. Set over. And this played up front, but nobody ends up getting to it for Covenant, making it now a 9-2 lead for the Falcons.
You can really credit that point to the play from the libero for Knox Christian. Great dig. Great dig on that serve.
Mkhitaryan had that block, and now it's deflected back over, and a lift called on Brittany Mason. So Covenant leads at 10-2. Back in for the Falcons is Stephanie Mkhitaryan. Let's track down that hit out of bounds by Brock, and it's 11-2. Serve here now, track down. Back row, Brock just puts it over. Set to the outside. Good dig again by Gask. And we have a double hit. The far side on Stephanie Snyder. Serve here by Mkhitaryan, played up front. Now, nice little tip play across by Lulu Raines, just finding an open spot on the floor. And it's 13-2. Boy, such a good set one at 25-24. And Knoxville just hasn't been able to get anything started here in set two. Set near the back row, and Brock hits that one into the net. And it's now 14-2. By the way, Covenant out of Huntsville, Alabama. They are a homeschool team. As Mkhitaryan's serve is an ace, and it's now 15-2. They're coached by Terry Abel. Terry is not here today. So the assistant David Raines is coaching, although Terry has been coaching for 20-plus years. And we have another ace, and it's 16-2. The lead for Covenant here in set two. We'll take a break, come back with more here in a moment. You're watching the NACA.
One.
So the serve here for Covenant would get things started back up here. 16-2. They lead it in set number two. And that ricochets out of bounds, and another kill for Selagani. And it's 17-2. Serve here is out of bounds. Make it now 17-3. So Zephanie Snyder with the serve.
I like that name.
Zephanie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Set back near side. Put across by Wilson. And then a kill. Good hit in the far side by Raines. Took a little bit off and just hit it straight down, making it 18-3. Is in for the Falcons comes Haley Jones. And Shayla Gotti with the serve. That ricocheted and falls in for an ace. And it's 19-3. Boy, as well as Knoxville played in that first game, the second set here has just kind of gone sideways a little bit. And
that was going to fall.
In the back corner. I didn't think that was going to land in bounds, but it did. Almost right in smack in the middle of that
It
back
had to
corner.
be that corner. I mean, if it...
20-3. Gotti's serve here. Play back into the back row. Brock puts that across. Now to the outside, and another kill for Raines.
Yeah, it's just really all Covenant in set two.
Well, and they've gotten, Covenant has kind of gotten in stride here a little bit with playing in sync and using their hitters. It's just been one of those sets that just kind of gone together. And on the other side, Knoxville's just not, I don't know, something's just disjointed in this set.
Yeah, we've seen what they can do in set one.
So 22-3 is the lead for Covenant. That's sent to Brock, and that goes off the back wall, so Carson will get credit for that. 22-4 the lead now for Covenant.
22-4.
Set to the outside. That put across with the left hand by Jones. Now Raines tried to pick a spot, but left it a little bit too strong. Good tip across there, played by Brock. Now she'll hit it, and that will count as a kill. 22-5, the lead for Covenant. And that serve a little shorter than that, so 23-5 the lead for Covenant. Raines with the serve, now set back near side, that's deflected. This will be tipped across. Now played near side, good block up front by Brittany Mason. 23-6 the lead now for Covenant. So Jolie Gask with the serve. And this played back up front. And that will fall in. So 23-7. To the outside, that's hit into the net. 23-8. So a little run here for the Knights. And that goes into the net, so 24-8. Now we're up to set point for Covenant. As Rachel Early will serve here. Is back in for the Falcons comes Michaela Mkhitaryan. Tracked down and bumped across. Down the middle, Mkhitaryan fires. Good dig on that back line. And sent across by Brock. And that hit the top of the net, so slowed it down a little. And that blocked up front by Mkhitaryan. And that'll do it for set two. 25-8 to win for Covenant here in the second set. Well, that's the first of, I don't know, a lot of volleyball matches here today. We'll have another one coming up for you here shortly. As a matter of fact, let me take a quick look and see who's in that match. believe it will be Carroll and Baltimore coming up next. So we will take a break. We'll come back in about 15 minutes or so with the start of your second match of the day. You've been watching the NACA National Championship Tournament.